Good morning, children. Hope you are well. Today, we will be reading a story told to us by a honeybee. Can you see a cute little honeybee in the picture? Honeybee is also called Madhumakhi in Hindi. So, children, are you ready to hear this story told to us by a honeybee? Let's begin. The story is called a monologue. What is a monologue? A monologue is a long speech by one person during a conversation. So, children, here the conversation is happening between the honeybee and you. But are you speaking back to the honeybee? No. It's only the honeybee who is going to be talking to us. That's why we call this conversation as a monologue. Mono means one and log stands for dialogue. So only one person is going on speaking. So let's read this monologue together. Hmm. What? Me? A lazy bee? You think I simply have fun all day among the flowers? Oh no! When I am flitting from flower to flower, I am actually very hard at work. And that's why I am called not a lazy bee, but a busy bee. Come, I'll show you my house and tell you what a lot of work we bees do all our life. So children, this bee is telling you that when we watch him, all we see is the bee flying from one flower to the other flower. So the meaning of the word flitting from flower to flower means flying from one flower to the other flower. So when we see this honeybee, we think, oh wow, what a lovely life this bee has. All he does is just flying amongst the flowers. So we start calling him a lazy bee. But the bee is telling you that he is not lazy. He does a lot of hard work all day long. And that's why we shouldn't call the bee a lazy bee. But because he's doing so much of work, we should call him a busy bee. Now, children, the bee is going to tell you about his house, the place where he stays. Are you ready to listen? So let's read further. My house is called a honeycomb. It's a big house with thousands of rooms or cells. Each room has 6 equal sides. We take a lot of care to build it. We even produce the material for building the comb. It's called beeswax. So children, if you look at the first picture, you can see a big tree with a lot of leaves. But can you see a big brown thing hanging from that tree? That is the house of the bee. And what do we call the house of the bee? A honeycomb. So you can see the honeycomb is a very big house for the bees. And the honeybee tells us that there are thousands of rooms. These rooms are also called cells. Each room has 6 equal sides. Now children, what is a figure with 6 equal sides called? Correct, a hexagon. So if you look at the picture at the bottom, you can see many such hexagons or 6-sided figures attached to each other. This forms the house of the honeybee. And children, can you tell me what are buildings made up of? How is your house made? Yes, it's made up of bricks. But do you know when you attach one brick over the other, what material you use to stick the bricks together? You use cement. So just like we use cement for our houses, the bees use a material called beeswax. And this beeswax joins all those cells together to form a big honeycomb. Isn't that wonderful? So though the honeycomb looks like a small thing hanging from the tree, actually it is made up of thousands of cells. And who does all this work? The honeybee. So you can see how hard working he is. Now let's see what else he wants to tell us. Let's read, children. Do you know, when I was very young, I used to stay at home. But even then, I had to do a lot of work. So children, just like you are young, you stay at home most of the time. So even when the honeybee was young and small, he used to stay at home. But tell me one thing, even when you stay at home, Mummy gives you some small jobs to do, correct? So just like that, even when the honeybee was small, though he was at home, he used to do work at home. So let us see what work he used to do. I had to look after the larvae. What are larvae? The babies that would grow into bees. I had to feed and protect them. If anyone came near our comb to disturb it, I was ready with my weapon, a sting. I'm not only a worker, I'm also a soldier. Beware, don't trouble me. So children, In the earlier slide, we seen how the honeybee was hardworking and built such a big house called the honeycomb. Here the honeybee is telling us when he stays at home when he was younger, what all work he did. The babies that are too tiny and can't fly out are called as larvae. If you look at the picture on the top, in all the cells, inside can you see some tiny black dot-like things? Those are tiny little larvae that are inside the cells of the honeycomb. And outside, can you see some big honeybees? What are those honeybees doing? They are taking care of the larvae. They are protecting them. And children, if anyone tries to break their house, these honeybees act like soldiers. What do soldiers do? They fight and protect us. In the same way, these honeybees will fight against anyone who comes to destroy their home and the little larvae. And what is the weapon used by the honeybee? It's called a sting. Look at the picture at the bottom. This is a picture of a honeybee. And can you see that pointed thing coming out of the mouth? That is the sting. So the sting is a sharp pointed organ used by bees for protection. If you go close to them, the bee is going to sting you. So better not go next to a honeycomb or a bee. Well, to go back to the comb, I had to keep the comb cool by fanning it with my wings. So children, the bee is telling you when it is very hot in the summer, what does the bee do? It cools down the comb by flapping his wings. So his wings are acting like a fan. Now let's read together. Then I had to keep the house in order. Put away all the honey and food that other bees brought from the flowers. But luckily, I had hundreds of other bees working with me. We all worked together without ever fighting. That's one reason why we can build such perfect and beautiful houses. Yes, I helped with the house building too. We keep making our house bigger and bigger to make room for the babies and for the food and honey we gather. So children, all the honeybees work together. And what do? They go to flowers and collect food and honey and bring it back to the honeycomb. Then they put it all together and they keep making their house bigger and bigger so that more babies can grow in and more bees can stay together. So children, if you don't fight with each other and if you work together, you can build a huge home and stay happily with the other family members. When I became older, I began to fly out of the comb to gather nectar. I take the nectar and pollen from the flowers and carry them back to the comb. Nectar is the sweet juice in flowers, and pollen is the yellow powdery stuff you see on flowers. I visit hundreds of flowers and make several trips every day without wasting even a single moment. So children, till the honeybee was young, he used to stay in the comb, do all the work in the comb and take care of the babies. But when he's all grown up, he also started flying out of the comb. But is he flying out to have fun? No. He's flying out to go to the flowers and collect nectar and pollen and take them back to the comb. If you look at the flower in the picture, can you see the yellow substance in the middle of the flower? That is pollen. So pollen is the yellow powdery stuff that you see on flowers. And inside the flowers, there is a juice called as nectar. The honey bee takes this nectar from the flowers back to their comb. So children, every time they are visiting flowers, all they are doing is collecting nectar and pollen and taking it back to their comb. So they are doing a lot of hard work. The nectar from the flowers is too thin. We bees turn it into the sweet thick honey that you like. It's only because you called me a lazy bee that I stopped and explained it all to you. Otherwise, I have not a moment to lose. Bye. So children, look at the pictures. The first picture is that of the nectar from the flower. It is very thin and watery, so it flows easily. When the bees take this nectar back to the comb, they turn it into honey. And I'm sure all of you have honey at home. Honey is called mud in Hindi. This honey that you see at home, is it thin or thick? Yes, it's a thick liquid. So who does this job of making the honey thick? The honey bee. So that's why the honey bee is telling you that all this work that he does makes him a very busy bee. So you shouldn't call him a lazy bee, but you should call him a hard-working and busy bee. That's all he has shared with you. Now he has to rush back to do all the work that he does every day. So children, I hope you like this conversation by the honeybee. Now, let's answer the questions to this lesson. The first question is, why is the bee called a busy bee? Why, children? Why is he called busy? The bee is called a busy bee because he works hard the whole day long. The second question, what work do young bees do? So children, when the bee was young and he had to stay in the comb, what was he doing in the comb? Yes, the young bees look after the larvae. What are larvae? The babies of the honeybees. They also feed and protect them and act like soldiers. The third question is, what do the older bees do? So children, when the bees become older, what do? They fly out of the comb and go to the flowers to collect nectar and pollen. Fourth question, what weapon does the bee have? What is the name of the weapon? A sting. And the last question, when does the bee use its weapon? When does the bee use its sting, children? When anyone comes near the comb to disturb it. Very well answered, children. The next question is, find the meaning of the following from the lesson. The first word is honeycomb. What is the honeycomb, children? Honeycomb is the house made by the bees, which has thousands of cells, and each cell has 6 sides. The next one is beeswax. What is beeswax, children? Remember cement? Yes. So beeswax is the material for building the comb. Third word is nectar. Nectar is the sweet, thin juice in flowers. And the last word is pollen. Pollen is the yellow powdery stuff that we see on flowers. Now that you've understood the meaning of these words, put these words in alphabetical order. What do you mean by alphabetical order, children? Looking at the first letter of all the words, arrange them from A to Z. So let us see the first letter of all the words. Honeycomb starts with H. Beeswax starts with B. Nectar starts with N. And pollen starts with P. So children, if you say your ABC, which alphabet will come first from all these 4? B. So the first word should be beeswax. After B, what comes? H. So the second word should be honeycomb. Now continue from H. Say your alphabets and letters. Hijklmn. So the next word should be nectar. And what are we left with? Pollen. So these are the words arranged in alphabetical order. Very good, children. Now, children, read this along with me. We use the words busy as a bee to describe a person who keeps working happily all the time. What qualities do you think of when you think of the following examples? So, children, because the bee works hard all day, we call the bee busy bee. So we use the words as busy as a bee. You have to think of the qualities of those animals given over here and use those words to describe that animal. You could use your own words. I have given you some examples of words which match with the animals. Let's start with lion. A lion is the king of the jungle. He's very strong. So that's why I can say brave as a lion. The next animal is elephant. What do you think when you think of an elephant? He's very big. So I can say big as an elephant. Third is ant. When I think of an ant is very tiny. So I can say small as an ant. Fourth animal is fox. You all must have heard the story of the fox and the grape. How was the fox over there? Cunning. So I can say cunning as a fox. Then is tortoise. You must have also heard the story of the hare and the tortoise. Why does the tortoise win the race? He was very slow. So slow as a tortoise. Then comes monkey. Monkeys are very tricky. So tricky as a monkey. Then we have butterfly. Butterflies are so colorful and beautiful. So beautiful as a butterfly. Then we have cow. Cows are very peaceful animals. They are very calm. So calm as a cow. And the last animal is horse. Horses are very strong and they run very fast. You must have seen horse races. So I can say strong as a horse. You could think of some more words. What comes to your mind when you think of these animals? Fifth question is, find out what a beehive is. What is a beehive, children? It is a structure made by bees in which the bees live and make honey. So a beehive is nothing but the honeycomb. Draw a picture of the honeycomb cells. So you can see, children, first I've drawn a picture of a single honeycomb cell. That is the shape of a hexagon. And then to show many honeycomb cells, I've drawn many hexagons which are joined to each other. Do practice this in your house. That's all for today, children. I hope you learned a lot about honeybees. If you get a chance, do read some more information on honeybees and how they live and work. Thank you, children, and have a lovely day.